Okay. Should be live now. Okay, yes, we're live. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our monthly webinar series. It's really a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to your active participation in today's conversation as it promises to be insightful and engaging. I remain Elojo Joy, and I'm a legal intern at Adun Legal. At Adun Legal, we protect your business, technology, intellectual property, and future. Now, what this means is that we work closely with startups and founders just like you to navigate regulatory uncertainty, especially in fast evolving and highly regulated sectors. In our experience, most founders think intellectual property is something you file, store, move on from. A copyright here, a trademark there, and once it's registered, the job is done. But the truth is, registration is just the beginning. If your IP is not actively generating value through revenue, partnerships, or market advantage, then it is not working as hard as it should. In today's digital and innovation driven economy, some of the most valuable businesses are not built on physical assets, but on ideas, on technology, data, and brand. The real question now is no longer whether you have intellectual property, but whether you know how to use it. Now, that is exactly what today's conversation is about, moving beyond registration and understanding how your intellectual property can be structured, deployed, and monetized as a core part of business strategy. This is in line with our theme for the month, intellectual property and technology monetization strategies. Today's session is designed to be practical, insightful, and forward looking. That's why we have brought an expert into this conversation, the exceptional barrister Elijah Briggs. He's a renowned authority on the subject of intellectual property, and he will be taking us through the nitty gritties of all we need to know regarding intellectual property and technology monetization strategies. So, whether you're a founder, operator, startup, in-house counsel, compliance professional, or maybe you're simply trying to understand what intellectual property and technology monetization entails, you're exactly in the right room. Now, Barrister, now let's get to know a bit more about our speaker for today. Barrister Elijah Briggs is an experienced attorney, lecturer, and intellectual property consultant with a strong focus on the intersection of intellectual property, technology, and policy. He has advised on complex IP and innovation-driven matters, contributed to academic discourse, and supported the development of forward-thinking regulatory frameworks. His work helps creators, businesses, and institutions not just protect their intellectual assets, but strategically leverage them for growth and long-term value. Now, at this point, you should even be more excited than I am about this webinar because now we know how much value our speaker is here to give us this afternoon. Now, without taking much of our time, I would hand over to our speaker to take us further on this discourse. Barrister Elijah Briggs, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Joy. In fact, when you were doing your introduction, I was thinking you were talking about somebody else. It sounded so sweet to my ears. All right, thank you so much, participants in the webinar. Thank you so much, Joy, Inoma, and the entire Adrian law firm. Thank you for having me. It's actually my distinct honor, and I hope that in the course of our discourse, we would be able to learn one or two things, majorly to whet our appetites, not to go too nitty gritty in the scheme of things, but whet our appetite and ensure that we know exactly what we're doing. So we're talking about beyond registration, advanced intellectual property protection, and technology monetization strategies. Okay, just like Joy did say in her introduction, IP is no longer just about registration, right? So I think excluding copyright and trade secrets, you could have every other, form of intellectual property right that insists that a person must register them. So you have trademarks, you have your patents, you have your industrial designs and other, forms of intellectual property. But for copyright, um, the law is to the effect that, of course, immediately it is published, immediately the work is published, okay, in a form in which the viewer could discern it, could feel it, right? Could see it, through all the perceptory, senses. Then that is okay. However, the Copyright Act, for example, in Nigeria, 2022, still talks about the reason why you should still, do some registration with the Nigerian Copyright Commission. Why is that? Because registration truly, with the NCC, will give you that instrument of notification. Okay, that certificate can actually be used as prima facie evidence in court when supposedly an infringement occurs. Okay, so registration is important, even in the copyright. Everybody says, by law, immediately is expressed. The idea is expressed in tangible form, okay, and it's published. Is there? So that is that. But then, we're not really dealing on registration because we all understand, the benefits of registration and the rights that accrue to any innovator, who registers his or her copyright, work. However, I think we're looking at strategic control and revenue generation. We're looking at digital platforms. We're looking at AI and globalization and how, it's been able to transform how creatives and innovators earn. Okay, so basically our focus is on advanced protection mechanisms for this class. And there are three major issues that usually come up. First, we have the offline and we have the online. And I think I'll major on the online because the world is now a global village. Everybody is, online. Everybody wants to sell. Anybody who knows me when I teach you know that I use colloquial languages sometimes. Okay, so you should just get used to me. So everybody wants to sell his market. Every content creator wants to sell. You understand? Everybody wants to make it big, make it huge, something huge. All right. And so it's not about just posting your content online. You have to guard against counterfeit products. You have to guard against digital piracy. You have to guard against unauthorized distribution and cyber fraud. And that's majorly why technology, becomes something of great importance. Okay, in ensuring that you're able to keep at this. Why? Like I said, there's offline, there's online. Offline, yes, we have laws that prevent this and there's legal enforcement. But offline, let's be very frank with you, we have jurisdictional enforcement problems. So everybody knows that IP is jurisdiction based. If you want to enforce, so a person who has his copyright registered in Nigeria or first published in Nigeria is a Nigerian citizen, okay, and all that. You have your enforcement rights in Nigeria. If it's not in any other country, you can't really enforce where there's an infringement in another country. So that becomes, an albatross on your neck. And everybody's, to be frank with you, everybody's on TikTok, everybody's on Facebook, everybody's on, Twitter, X, Instagram, and all the social platforms. What does that tell you? That tells you that we actually are not, we're not, we're not in an offline mode anymore. We are actually online, and that's where people are making the money. Let me give an example. You remember those days when we used to watch MTV Base, we used to watch Channel O and all that. They used to do top 10 best, top Nigeria songs, best in Kenya songs, South African songs, and all that. Everybody was, oh yeah, Channel O, MTV Base, oh yeah, 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 and all that. Today, how many people, I've seen quite a number of write-ups online stating that they are shutting down. Why are they shutting down? Because the market is no more there. Nobody wants to sit down, um, um, go to DSTV or any other platform to say, oh, I want to sit down and be watching Nigerian music, when I can just download it in a click from my phone and listen to it repeatedly without waiting for them to show it again. Remember those times you wait, you see your favorite song, you wait until they play it again, or when they have a calling session, you go ahead and do that. No, nobody does that anymore. So the world is shifting. There's actually a paradigm shift in um, your strategies. And that's the reason why I'll start with copyright when we're talking about advanced protection strategies. Copyright, for instance, you look at digital rights management and the blockchain watermarking. And why is this important? It's important because digital rights management, I'll just call them DRMs for short going forward. DRMs help you. It's technology based with a tier of legal, you know, um, enforcement. So what happens is you could trace and protect whatever work that you have. And how does this work? It can work through encryptions. So for those who are into literary works, books, your poems, your just generally, basically your literary works, you could encode, and encrypt that document in a way that you before the user would open it after it's been paid for, they will have a license key. Okay. And then you could also have your license servers. What happens with your license servers? It decides what the user can do with it. So it could be a read-only document. It could actually be a play once document. It could actually be just print, or you could negate the fact that any person should be able to print. And then um, you could also, talk about expiry dates on it, and then you can even limit the device to which it can be played. So you could lock it in a manner that it can be played on phones because it will be easy to share P2P. But what you could do is, it's going to only be on perhaps laptops and certain, restricted, restricted devices. So it's actually a nice thing to explore. Now we'll look at digital watermarking. Usually, just like you have on your, you see, for example, adjourn law, for instance, you guys could do some work, some intellectual work about laws and all that, and you post them online, and then you watermark them with adjourn law, so everybody knows that, oh yes, it's coming from adjourn law. So you could have, basically you could have the visible marks. That's fine. But some people are very crafty. You could download these things and do anything with them. So you could also still have invisible and forensic watermarks. Now, what you do with that is, you could eventually trace it, and that's how it works when you're using the blockchain. So it works. Anybody who, if you give it to somebody and the person gives it to somebody else, it shows where the leak is coming from. So you know who leaked it. And so good watermarks, for instance, to be very frank with you, good watermarks, even if you put it through your YouTube compression, it will still show that, this is a document emanating from this source. And then even if you're using camcording, it will still show that it's emanating from this source. So that's how you protect these things, because to be frank with you, every single day somebody else is looking at a way to circumvent whatever you have done, just to benefit of you. And what is IP about? And what's IP rights about? And what exactly do the innovators and creators want? They want money, they want fame, they have moral rights, but of course they still have economic rights and economic benefits. So you cannot and you should not deprive them from earning from their mind's work. From ideation to publishing takes a lot of work. For some people, I was looking at a documentary on the person who composed the song Hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. And say it took him close to 7 years. He did many different, when I say different, verses of it before he was able to do that song. And that song has become a hit for life. Okay, so you don't know the labor, the skill, and the effort that has been put into the creation of these things. And so we shouldn't take them lightly when we protect them. It's not just registration, it goes beyond that, like I have said earlier. Okay, so you also look at um, AI powered content tracking, okay, and enforcement tools. Yes, our Copyright Act talks about, um, DCMAs. You can approach the court for takedown measures and all that. But let's be frank with ourselves. How many places can you check as a human? How many sites can you check per day to find out if somebody is infringing on your work? Let's be frank. As a human being, that will mean you're not doing any other job. All you just be doing is looking out online for who has copied my work, who has done some copy on my work. And to be frank with you, that's the reason why we need these AI content ID systems and access controls. They will definitely help you. And funny enough, they are not too expensive. They are not too expensive. So you could just, what you do is that um, you have to register with them. Okay, you upload your work, and then what they do is that they help you. You know, it finds that anything that is related to your content online, and then it enforces your rights at scale. What that means is that it works like, your content is converted into what we call a hash, HASH. Okay, and then it monitors. So we have what we call AI crawlers. These AI crawlers scan per time the web. They scan not just the web, they scan app stores. They even go as well as scanning streaming sites, NFT markets, and even the dark web. Okay, so per time they could always give you a response. Oh, Mr. Briggs, oh, Miss Joy, somebody at so time has copied your work and is using your work and all that. So usually you could even have automated responses to, so if it is, the platform is YouTube or Spotify or something, automated responses sending immediately to them that, listen, my work has just been infringed, and so you have to take it down. Okay, take it down and inform the other party that there's an infringement on my work. If you leave it to the offline mode, which is going to court, writing cease and desist letter, and all these plenty things, to be very frank with you, they are good though, yes, but the world is not about this long scale of drama. It's not drama. Before you get a lawyer, start talking about payment of the lawyer, briefing the lawyer, then he begins to work, sort it out, send to their mails, they respond and all that. So much time is going. You wouldn't even know, to be very frank, you wouldn't even know how much the person would have gotten within that period. And so it's always good that we work preemptively, we work proactively, in ensuring that we protect what we own. All right. And then you have geo blocking. Geo blocking, for instance, you could you could I know ESPN, for instance. I tried to watch some of their clips of goals that were scored in a match that was perhaps played a day prior to that day. And when I click on it, usually on X, they will tell me that my region, this content cannot be played in my region. What exactly are they doing? They are doing what they call geo blocking, right? And tiered content access. So if you want to protect your work, maybe you know that if this thing is very accessible in the Chinese area, Chinese, and I mean, I'm not being, um, derogatory to anybody. I'm just saying it. So you don't want it to be aired or viewed in a particular area because perhaps you have your fears or whatever. You could easily just say, okay, um, let me block that area because they can easily take my work, rework it, reverse engineer it, and do something with it. So that's what it does. What geo blocking will do for you is it restricts who can access your content based on the user's location, based on the IP address. Remember there was a time that X, or then Twitter, was banned in Nigeria. Some people were changing their VPNs to still access, you know, and all that. So, the billing country or the SIM country. Okay, so you could use your job. Now, on the off higher stages, you see QR codes. QR codes now, quite a number of firms are beginning to use QR codes because yes, they work better. So you see situations where let me just look at uh, virtually almost, most of the companies right now, they always have their stuff. So your phones are now programmed in that manner that you could do the scan. And when you scan the QR code, either from your device or and all that, you know that you're dealing directly with the OG. Okay. So it's not a fake, it's not, you know, this thing. So that's another avenue you could use. You could also use holograms and holographic seals. Okay. So anybody who has an ATM card, you look behind it, you see that shiny hologram seal that is there. Okay. So you could also use it. It could also help you um, safeguard and ensure you the number one, the authenticity of your work, and number two, safeguard undue unauthorized access and exploitation of your work. All right. So I give quite a number of some copyright monetization examples on the slide, which we talk about YouTube, for instance. I was saying that you could have up to $3 to $5 dollars per 1,000 views. Of course, with 1 million views of your content, you could have as much as $3,000 to $5,000. All right, convert it into naira. You know that's some good amount of money. However, 1 million views. Yusef Tinker, 1 million views, right? Yeah. So your content has to be catchy. Your content has to be something that you would need to get a lot of followers, a lot of likes, a lot of downloads, okay, and a lot of views. Of course, we all know that people would view most times. The people who even view maybe 100 times the number of people who like, and then people who like could be another 100 percentile of people who download. So there's usually this. So you have likes, views, downloads. So you could make all that on TikTok, which is actually one of the good paying guys. They are a bit flexible. With your creator fund, you could make as much as just 4 cents per 1,000 views, but your brand deals could give you between 5,000 and 50,000 dollars for a viral post. Okay, Instagram does 100,000 followers for $1,000 to $10,000 per post, right? Together with your brand deals. Facebook in-stream ads, of course, like $1 to $5 per 1,000 views. Spotify does 3 cents to 5 cents per stream, and then 1 million streams, 3,000 to $5,000. Okay, and then independent artists who go ahead and do for Spotify streams, 50 million Spotify streams could earn you about $150,000 to $250,000. Okay, and while the TikTok virality, you have multiple streams, and brand deals could give you very good amount of money. What's the key factor that we're trying to pass across right now is that more viewers, more likes, just be present and more accessible online on every digital platform, and then you make more money, okay, for yourself and then for your business. Okay, so um, we could look at trademark. Of course, the law says yes, you should protect it by registering it. You have for 7 years you're protected, and then you can be renewing your arrangement. But the thing is that there are quite a number of brands, okay, and when you become a brand that has started making money, a brand that has made a name for itself, you begin to see, similar guys coming up, either trying to um, adopt the same kind of either color or feature, or something about your logo that would, to be very frank with you, calculatedly deceive a person online who doesn't know the difference between um, the, the right one from the wrong one. So you could have a YouTube, it's still red, it's still everything, but they will just do a little difference, get a different domain name, and then be benefiting from your work. So people who think they are dealing with YouTube, for instance, not knowing that they are dealing with YouTube, they wouldn't see it clearly first. Okay, so What we could do to protect our works in an advanced way is we could make use of AI powered brand monitoring, just like I said before, to detect infringements globally. Like I said initially, that the bulk of trademark registrations are jurisdictional. So you still have to ensure that you register your trademark in different jurisdictions, all right, so that you have a good protection. Then you could also have what we call defensive domain name acquisition. And what does that do? When you use the Web3 and the metaverse, any any domain name you have, okay, um, you could protect it. So anybody who wants to register something that is close to it, similar to it, which definitely is intentionally calculated to deceive a hapless person in the society, it would automatically pick it up and make sure that it is not registered. So that helps to, you know, cut down on these things. And then you have your trademark watch services and automated takedowns. That helps on the enforcement in the enforcement area. Okay, so I can see my time is really running. Monetization strategies, you could talk about brand licensing. So if it's fashion, it's merchandise, you could say, okay, I have my brand. And usually one good thing about trademark is it's 7 years, but of course it's renewable. Okay. So some people say it never dies. So what happens is you could have a brand, you could have built a brand, and then you can license that brand to different people in different countries. So assuming you have a brand, Joy Lojo Cosmetics or something, right? And what you want to do is, you know very well you cannot establish yourself in all the African countries, in all the European countries, in the Americas. So what do we do in the circumstance? So you could have other um, other companies in those regions, right? That you give them license, so they'll be using the same Joy Lojo Cosmetics, producing, selling, and paying you off for the usage of your brand and your logo, right? So that you could always do, and it works for fashion, merchandises, even NFTs, your non-fungible tokens online. That could also go for that. And then franchising models, explore franchising models. Everybody, you know, those days we should have Mr. Biggs and all those things. Today we have quite a number of other these things. We have Burger King, we have every other this thing, uh, confectionery restaurants around. What happens is it's franchising. It's not like they came all the way from the US or from the UK to establish here in Nigeria. It was through arrangements, franchising models. And those franchising models is that definitely you would keep to the exact standard of the brand and the business. And for this period of time, you're paying me this. So you could be, you know how people say, oh, you don't made money until you're sleeping and you're making money. And then they give you this those sweet they will now call there's this thing they used to call aspire to inspire ahead. When those guys begin to start inspiring and perspiring to conspire to inspire your whole body and your mind, they will tell you that you're not making money until you can be sleeping and there's money entering into your account. But that can be done through franchising models. Honestly, it can, or co-branding partnerships. All right. So you could do that. In fact, licensing logos alone made over 10 million. I saw this thing is actually this about over $10 million for licensing alone between 2025 and 2026, just licensing. So actually, people do this. It doesn't end up in Delulu. Sometimes it's just the Solulu, right? So for patent protection, patents generally are inventions, and people usually take quite a number of time in doing these things. Of course, you can improve on somebody else's work, but um, you have to have some distinct features that do not show a direct copy of the work that has been done. But then, what you could do is you could have patent landscaping and AI driven prior art searches. Okay, so what that does for you is it helps you. know exactly what has been done in this area, um, and then if you want to make some improvement on it, of course you can, so that you could your market will sell. Number one, number two, you won't infringe on other person's work, and number three, you know definitely that it is your own. Okay, and then you could monetize it, in the future. Having at the back of your mind, in most jurisdictions, patents just last for about 20 years. So you have to be strategic when you're protecting your patent, because mainly it's made public, gazetted in the and published, to the world. Everybody can look at it. People can do reverse engineering, and your work is gone. Okay, so you have to be strategic when you're doing these things. So you should also have, international filings. You could use the PCT, system, filing system, so you could have your work protected around the world. Um, what that does is, if any other person uses your work in another place, you have a right to go against the person for an infringement. Now, as difficult as that may sound, I had to deal with a job on, um, sometime, I think 3 years ago, 4 years ago. A client met me and said, "Oh, Mr. Briggs, I went for this oil and gas summit in Texas." Okay, and while at the OTC conference, I was sharing something about something I had done, and I had a white lady, listen to what I had done, and by the time I came to Nigeria, I tried to finish the modeling, and I sent it to Shell, and then I found out that it had already been registered in Nigeria by that woman I spoke with a year earlier in Texas. What do I do? And I told him, I said, "You see, one thing about patents, when you register first, bro, sister, you're the owner of it." And so what that means is, first register, first recognized, prior ownership. So you have to be very careful. You have to be strategic and avoid stories that touch. And I just told him, I said, "Well, to be frank with you, it's not in your name. Even the share you're writing to is telling you that we've done our checks, and they're actually the patent owners. They've also registered in the US, Nigeria, and other countries. So we can't deal with you." And the client was virtually getting, crazy, crazy, calling my line all the time, and asking me whether there was a miracle that could be done. So avoid stories at touch. Let's be frank with ourselves. Avoid stories at touch. You can also use patent tickets to block competitors. Okay, let's just act smart. So your monetization strategies, just like I talked about trademarks, so you can also do with patents. So you could license them. It could be royalty based income. But the person uses your invention for a period. So the good thing about it is, assuming it's something like you're manufacturing for a car, for instance. So that technology could be licensed to Hyundai, to Toyota, to Honda, to name them. Okay, so they will use that exact technology, and develop whatever they want to do in their cars. If it's a cheap that you've been able to do, you could sell to phones. So the iPhone guys, Samsung guys, and all the other brands of phones could still use your same technology, because they're almost the same thing, just in different shades. So they could use the same technology or the same chips, and then so you're making money from almost every person, big player in the sector, from your one work. And most times, let me give you a secret for startup guys. You may not have the money to do all these registrations around the world, project your work, begin to have offices around the globe and all that. Let's be frank with ourselves. No matter how you scale, you do first round, do preceding round, seeding round, scaling round, all the rounds. You may not be able to do these things, but what you can do is you can strategically monetize this thing by licensing them to different people in different jurisdictions. and giving them. So you can even license it. You can license a person because since you have 20 years, you can license for like 5 years. You know that after 5 years, the next royalty or commission that you make will be different because every point in time things are going up. So you could do that repeatedly for different people in different countries. And so truly, you could just be sitting down and making your money. And you can sell, of course, like I talked about, selling your patents to tech firms. Okay, so they can use it, and you could just be sitting down and be making your money. Without being doing the business and having to, do all the what we call the hustle. You know, um, I told people work smart. Don't this hard work pays. Hard work pays. It's been something that people have looked at over time, and they've told you that work smart. And work smart is what you're doing right now by attending this webinar. Work smart is trying to know how you could adequately circumvent unauthorized usage of your works, adequately protect your works, and monetize strategically your works. So you're actually acting smart being on this webinar. Okay, so it just, for the records, universities, Harvard and the others, the research base is that they made over $100 million just from 2025 to 2026 by doing what? Annuity for patent um, commercialization from, because usually whatever a student does from the university, the intellectual property belongs to the university. Okay, so universities, you can imagine if, let's talk Nigeria now. Imagine if Nigerian universities have been making use of this. Definitely not everybody is writing sense in their projects. Some of them just want to get grades and go, definitely. But then, if you look deep down, there's quite a number of people, and I tell you that there's going to be a whole lot of people who have actually made very defining inventions that have just been swept under the carpet and are lying fallow in university libraries and project defense rooms. Okay, so it's an area where the society could actually mop up some cash, for it. Trade secrets, basically, yes, we don't really register them, but you can protect them. Coca-Cola has protected its trade secret for a long time, oh, very long time, long time. So um of course, the general ones we know, you could have agreements, non-disclosure agreements, which is offline now, the usual offline things, employee IP agreements, whatever thing you're doing here belongs to us. Um, but you can actually put these things on the blockchain and keep it there secret. You can encrypt, these things. And then, like I said earlier, you can have access tier controls. So your secret is kept safe. You have zero trust cybersecurity systems that will keep this information, and then only persons who have the key to unlock those things are the persons who would have the access, okay, to it. And there have to be very few. Like Coca-Cola, for instance, I know we're only about two persons, right? So um, that's advanced protection because it's not just two persons humans who can die, because of course they can die. Some people will say, "Oh, my trade secret is in my brain." Okay, now I know what I mix that thing comes out with. My recipe is in my brain. It's in my brain. It's in my brain. It's my trade secret. Show me how you do it now. It's my trade secret. So, one day everybody would die, and when you die, what happens? The trade secret is lost. That's intellectual property that would have continued for a long time. And let me tell you one good thing about trade secrets. Trade secrets differ from patents. You know why? Because it remains a secret, it's never shown to the public, and it lasts forever as long as you want to keep it. As long as you want to keep it secret. But patents, immediately it comes out to the public, is now in public domain and lasts for 20 years and is gone. So between patents and trade secrets, let me tell you, whenever you want to advise your clients, let them understand that it depends on what they are doing, but they should explore trade secrets first before trying to ensure that they are doing patenting. Yeah, that's one small thing that I will just add to you. So you could also use proprietary algorithms, okay, um, to ensure that your stuffs are there. And people have made billions in ad revenue annually. Companies like SaaS firms, right? the monetize secrets via subscriptions. So people can say, okay, so you could give like a part of your work, people subscribe, get exactly. So you have a marketing strategy, that's your trade secret on how you could do this and this and do that. So when people subscribe, they get to this part. You know the way these our guys do now. 30 days free trial. After that one, you must put your card. So they begin to collect you monthly. You subscribe, they collect. So that's it. So you could do such kind of stuff to monetize your secrets, okay, via subscriptions and all that, and then you could that also works for industrial designs and protection, because you could have 3D design registration across jurisdictions. You could also have digital twin protection. So that your design, if anybody has the same thing, that's why they call it a twin, the same thing, right? It will be detected for virtual products. It will be detected and it will tell you that this your design is being used, and so take it down. And then you could still use your design watermarking for virtual products, of course, to ensure that your stuff is not infringed upon. And then, like I said earlier, in monetizing your industrial designs, you could license the product designs, you could premium price, due to the aesthetics of it, and then you can collaborate with global brands. So you have a design in your mind, an industrial design for maybe a watch. You looked at the Rolex watches over the years, and you've come up with something that you think it could be added that could make something out of it. You can't compete with Rolex, but what you could do is that you can collaborate with them and say, okay, see, I think we could do something, you know, um, we could do Rolex Gen Z, for instance. This is how I think it should be. So we could also pass it down to the next generation, or Rolex Gen Alpha, Gen A, keep watching, and all that. So basically that you could do to get some of these things done. For want of time, I'll have to just round up. I'll try to round up because I'm out of time. We have advanced protection for plant varieties. So what happens in plant varieties is um, a person, and thank God Nigeria has promulgated the Plant Varieties Act. Okay, so a person can look at plants and say, oh, I've come up with this. I could mix this and I could get this. So if I mix this seedling and mix this seedling, I can get this kind of tangerine that looks like orange, partly tangerine, and partly mango, right? So the person has been able to create something new out of that kind of thing. Okay. Um, I don't want us to confuse it with GMOs, because that one is a different talk for another day. Okay, so this is more like a person who, the way the act presents it, a person who, out of his own ingenuity, okay, and biotechnology, has been able um, to create some sort of seedling or some sort of crop or some sort of plant that the variety is different from the normal. Okay, so what you can do there is offline, it's going to be difficult for you, because immediately you begin to sell it and sell it and sell it and sell it. So people will just know exactly what you're doing, take the seedlings, go and plant somewhere else, and everything is gone. So I really wonder what you're going to monetize from that. Okay, but if you want to go, you want to take it to the next level. Okay, you can DNA fingerprint your for plant identification online. Okay, you could register with the international breeders' rights systems, so that at least you are covered throughout, all those different jurisdictions, and then you can track your seeds through the blockchain, how they move, where they are going to, and all that. Because it has to be people who have paid for it that are using it and all that, so that you can track, for example, where it's coming from, where it's going to, you know, and all that. Then how do you make money out of it? It's not just doing new tangerine or new mango. It's You could license the seeds, to farmers. So take and go and plant after this period. Oh yeah, bring them back for me. You could also do royalty per harvest cycle. So um, you go and farm when the harvest cycle is completed. This is how much you're going to pay for me for this amount of years, right? Or per harvest cycle. So after this one, the next one, we agree again. The next one we agree again, and then you have agri-tech partnerships with firms that are into agri-tech and agrotech. So it helps the entire system. You could generate millions annually in just licensing fees, and so other IP rights are there. GIs, that's geographical indications. Okay, so basically just um um so you know about Ijebu Gari and all these the kente. You have your you know I went to Plateau for an IP conference last year, and I asked them. I said, what when I was talking about geographical indications, I said, what does Plateau do? And they said they have mango pepper. I said, that's good, mango pepper. Because I know Abakaliki has rice as well. I know that quite a number of people. So each community they have theirs. How do you protect it in an advanced way? International GI registration. Nigeria is still working on our GI Act. I know that it still is very much in the pipeline. It's going very well, but it's yet to be this. So you have to ensure that you have your international registrations, and then your blockchain traceability for authenticity. So people will not just make use of your work coming from your community and all that from your geographical place, and it's been shortchanged. And then your certification marks as well. You should try and ensure that it's coming. Anybody who knows that champagne is coming from, they know it's coming from the town Champagne in France. Okay, so the whole world, I think, is already aware of that. Now, if you want to work in that sector of IP generation, which is the GI sector, then you should ensure that you have the certification marks. Okay, and then for traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expressions, of course, you have your digital databases to prevent misappropriation. Your community should have their IP protocols, okay, that will help them out, and then legal frameworks so that you can benefit from it as a community. So basically, why should you monetize IP and technology matters? You should, because first of all, as an innovator, I'll tell you one thing. There's this thing about when I walk out with my son, and somebody looks at him and says, "Man, Elijah, this is your carbon copy." Something just inside you just begin to smile. You just say, yeah. Sometimes you just look deep down and say, yeah, 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 that's my sperm, man. That's my sperm. you know that paternity right. There's this thing that comes with even God. When God even created things from the beginning, he looked at everything and said, what? It was good. He had to give himself a pat on the back. He had looked at everything he had created and he said, what? This is good. Then he made man in his own image. This is good. Do you understand? So of course, you start with that. You definitely, this is your creation. It gives you fulfillment. Number two, you have to have sustainable income streams. Okay, from it. So it's not just making a thing to feel like you're the father of the thing or the mother of the thing or the proprietor of the thing. Bro, you got to make money out of it. We're not here to play. We're here for serious business. So you got to make money out of it and protect your money. Because if you don't protect your money, it's going to be stolen. It's going to be stolen. And then, of course, you have global market access. Global market access simply is ensure that as an innovator, because the world it has long become a global village, right? So your competitors are not here in Lagos, they're not here in Abuja, they're not here in Port Harcourt. Your competitors are in Vietnam. Your competitors are in Shanghai. Your competitors are somewhere in a village in Texas. So that's the way the world has gone. Okay, people now use AI and create things and are making money off it. So um, create something and make something out of it. The government, of course, you make good money from the increased taxes. The government will also get money. Our gross domestic products will eventually increase, and then our innovation ecosystems will eventually grow. That's a normal thing. The society, of course, would grow because there will be job creation. Of course, there will be cultural preservation for when you talk about GI and TK and TCEs, of course, and technological advancements. Okay, now you look at OPay and Money Point. You see what fintech companies have grown into. Have you seen that they are giving the conventional banks a run for their money? Yeah, actually. So how many people can now queue up on Zenith bank lines and Access bank lines and all the other bank lines when you could stay and use your OPay and your Money Point and do, you know, whatever that you want to do from the comfort of your home. You see, so um, it's a win-win eventually where technology is involved because that's where the world is going to. So real value lies in conclusion, real value lies in strategic protection, smart monetization, and global scalability. Okay. Registration, like I would tell you, is just the starting point. It's not where the core of anything would lie anymore. It wouldn't. The future of IP is AI driven enforcement. If you continue to go to court and do arbitration, some people in their dispute resolution clauses, check them. They'll say if within 20 days negotiation does not work, you do mediation. Within 30 days, mediation does not work, you do arbitration. Within 2 months, arbitration does not work, then you go to court, or the arbitral award will be binding. You see all those kind of multi-tiered and layered, dispute resolution clauses. They make all these things very, very difficult. But why stress yourself if these things can be handled online, can be handled by the blockchain, can be handled by AI? I think it's time that we have to move forward. Intellectual property is not just a legal right, it's a revenue engine. Grab it, run with it, and make use of it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Barrister Elijah Briggs. I mean, throughout the duration of this session, I was literally glued to every single thing that you said. Um, we are truly honored to have had you on this conversation with us. And I have a question, though you answered it. It was one that was lingering on my mind when you spoke about cross-border expansion and how probably a tech firm that is just starting out, they have intellectual property and technology assets that they would like to monetize, and the whole cross jurisdictional protection and whatnot to enable them also monetize it outside. And then you spoke about licensing, right? And it's particularly struck me. However, I would ask for founders who would eventually come across this video, what are like practical steps that they can take towards this cross jurisdictional licensing that you spoke about?
Okay, it's always good that
Hello,
as a founder,
sir,
can you
did
hear
you get
me?
my question?
I got I got your question. Joy, I got your question.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
All right. So I said for founders who would want to go, cross border, I actually have, some clients who are in the same. Uh, so I tell you, for those who have an Afro based, mindset. So I have one right now I'm working with. They just launched their app. Is the goal is to make it Afrocentric. All right.
Mm,
So
mm,
I will tell you, try as much as possible to first register in Nigeria, ensure all your IP
mm,
rights are registered in Nigeria, and then pick know where exactly you want. So I told them, let's do Kenya. I'm just telling you, let's do Kenya, let's do South
mm,
Africa, let's do Ghana, and then let's go in the North African areas. Let's look at Algeria and Egypt, right?
mm,
Because their economies are good and all that. Later you can do Morocco and then begin to spread on other places. So you could work on them in batches. That's number one. Number two, this African the ORP, okay, the Organization
mm,
for IP registration around Africa, and then the ARIPO for the English speaking countries, and then ORP for the
mm,
French speaking
mm,
countries. Again, you could
mm,
explore something of that nature. Unfortunately, Nigeria
mm,
is still, joking around with the ARIPO and all that. But then
mm,
they could have a central system where they could register them, which may be um, it's going to be cheaper than registering in every country in Africa like that. And same thing with
mm,
UEPO and all that. So that's something that you can do. But then if you what you perceive as a founder is that the vision is not just to establish in every town, but you could,
mm,
by licensing, get people in those areas, right? That you could partner with, and then they are giving you your royalties or your commission or your payments for a specific period of time. Then you would
Mm,
have to um it's going to be is it the ball game now moves to you actually pushing and pitching your work to ready
mm,
clients in those countries. Okay, so that's where your work would be. It's just pitching and poaching, ready businesses and industries that would, buy into your work, and then you could forge an arrangement or an
mhm,
agreement with them, license it to them, and then they
mm,
can go ahead or franchise to them as well, and then they can go ahead and do, and you make your money as well. Yeah, so you have to just know the skill, what exactly you want first, and then
mm.
how you would want to your mid-term goals, your long-term goals, and your short-term goals. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Perfectly, sir. Perfectly. Thank you so much for your response. I believe that was very, 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 very practical and clear enough for founders and co-founders who wish to go cross-jurisdictional in this time. Thank you once again to our speaker. It has truly been knowledge packed having you take us on this session today. Now, to our audience, let's go over what we have learned so far, shall we? Most important is that intellectual property only creates real value when it is actively used. Registration is indeed important, but it is only the starting point. The real advantage comes from understanding what you own, structuring it intentionally, and deploying it across your business in ways that generate income, strengthen market position, and unlock growth. It starts with clarity. Now, when you properly audit your IP, you begin to see assets that go far beyond the obvious. Technology, data, brand, and internal processes, they all carry value. That clarity feeds into valuation, where IP becomes part of how your business is priced, funded, and perceived. From there, monetization takes different forms like licensing, franchising, partnerships, and productization, each allowing your IP to scale beyond your direct operations. And at the same time, some of the most valuable assets remain behind the scenes. Data and trade secrets quietly drive competitive advantage, while consistent protection and enforcement ensure that the value you create is not lost to misuse. IP also opens doors financially, serving as leverage in funding discussions and enabling access to capital that would otherwise be out of reach. As your business grows, expanding your IP strategy across markets ensures that this value is not limited to one geography but multiplied globally. What ties all of this together is intention. Businesses that treat IP as a static legal requirement often leave value on the table. Those who treat it as a dynamic business tool build systems where ideas turn into assets and assets turn into revenue, influence, and long term advantage. At that point, IP stops being something you file and becomes something that actively works for you. Now, having dealt with IP and technology monetization strategies this month, next month we will explore data privacy and cybersecurity risk management, legal strategies for protecting digital assets and customer trust. And we will have the exceptional barrister Jeremiah Owolabi dissect this theme in our next month's webinar. As usual, this is one you do not want to miss. Thank you once again to our speaker, our host, and to everyone who joined us today. We are certain you gained value and we look forward to having you again next month. Thank you.